Countdown.
Recording.
Okay. I'd like to call to order Board of School Directors regular board meeting for Tuesday, February 16th of 2021. Can we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Allegiance to the flag, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible,
liberty.
liberty, and justice.
Okay. All right, Ms. Isha, whenever you're ready for a roll call.
And Mrs. Cerrucci is not here tonight, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. We'll start. Mrs. Delaney.
Here.
Mr. Gallagher.
Here.
Mr. Gottman.
Here.
Mr. McIntyre.
Here.
Mrs. Mungo.
Here.
Mr. Ritter.
Here.
Mrs. Warning. And Mr. Williams.
Here.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Isha. Before we move on to presentation, first I'd like to officially welcome Ms. Robin Mungo to the Gateway School District Board of Directors.
Thank you.
Speech.
I just want to thank everyone for supporting me and encouraging me. And I am nervous, but I am excited. Been in Gateway School District since the second grade. At Garden City is where I started. So I'm going to enjoy it, I'm sure. This is a great team of people to work with, and I'm looking forward to it.
Okay,
I'm aboard. Thank you.
all righty. So we've got a lot of work ahead of us. Hope you're ready. I also like to announce that we were in executive this evening to about 7:15, discussing contract negotiations and personnel. All right, so moving on, do we have any comments from the residents on agenda items or non-agenda items?
We do have Jalen Jennings. She's a Gateway High School senior that I would like to present her her singing Lift Every Voice.
Okay,
One moment, please. And this is her.
Hello, my name is Jalen Jennings and I'm a senior here at Gateway. And after school, I plan to study music business. Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring. Ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won.
Very nice.
oh, thank you, Ms. Jennings. Beautiful. Okay,
I think we need that in every meeting. I feel a lot better than I did 10 minutes ago.
all righty. We're gonna move on to section 4. We have a discussion/presentation regarding the return to school for 5 days in person, and I will turn it over to Dr. Short.
Thank you, Mr. Gottman. On the screen, hopefully everyone's able to see it. We have a PowerPoint presentation regarding an update on the COVID-19 health and safety plan that has been ever changing throughout the last 11 months. And I do remind everyone that we are approaching, and it's really hard to believe, the 1 year point from the time that we officially were shut down by Governor Wolf. All school districts in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania due to COVID-19. Initially on March 13th at 4 o'clock on a Friday, we thought it would be a temporary 2-week hiatus to allow COVID to go through. However, as soon as we had learned of the implications and the caseload and the essentially cases throughout the Commonwealth and the country, it became long-term, and the district was forced into remote learning to start off the 2021 school year. We have adjusted accordingly, and I wish to thank everyone involved, teachers, administrators, our administrative team, for constantly changing, adapting to what is presented to us on a daily basis with COVID. But I do want to, again, remind everyone of our mission statement. And I always start with this because included within that statement is promoting academic excellence in a safe and caring environment. And that is first and foremost in our minds as to what everything that we have done with COVID. Moving on to the next slide, please. Throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, the administrative meetings have happened weekly, not only internally with our administrative team, but also with principals, and weekly Allegheny Intermediate Unit superintendent meetings that provide us information firsthand coming from the Department of Health, Pennsylvania Department of Education, and Governor Wolf's office. Throughout this PowerPoint, I will review with everyone how the changes within the COVID-19 monitoring system dashboard has caused districts throughout the Commonwealth to adjust their learning instructional models. Also, I will provide everyone with the vaccination update and parent surveys that have been sent out. And the last bullet, of course, is the potential return to in-person 5-day instruction. Now, I preface that by saying there's a lot of things that need to fall in place prior to a return to 5-day instruction. I believe, as we will see throughout this PowerPoint, that hopefully we are near that happening, and you'll see with the COVID-19 dashboard and what we hope will happen with the vaccinations for our teachers, an opportunity to return, because we all feel it's very important that we get our children back to school in that learning environment, which is critical to their success moving forward. Next slide. PD COVID-19 monitoring dashboard. On the left-hand column, you will notice that we have from running order a 2-month breakdown of the incident rate per 100,000 residents. And this is updated weekly on the PDE site. And in the far right column, you will see the percent positivity. And you will notice from December 11th, the incident rate hovered around 396. The most recent release of information from February 5th to February 11th came in at 104. So we definitely see, as with what we're reading in the local newspapers, the incident rates are dropping significantly in our area, Allegheny County, and even throughout the Commonwealth. The percent positivity also has been declining. However, we are still at a significant point of instruction that is recommended by the Commonwealth for being hybrid and or remote. And I will explain that in 2 slides from here, where it discusses the substantial rate and what that means. So you can see that the trend is positive. to where we're going, and we are hopeful that it will continue to do so. Bonnie, if we could just move, or Mike, go 2 slides ahead. Skip the next one for now. And the instructional model determination that applies with that data that you saw on the previous screen. If you notice, the incident rate was still hovering above 100. The bottom column, level of community transmission in the county, still reflects that we are in substantial. And the positivity rate, even though it is less than 10%, the incident rate is above. So either or, one or the other of those, the recommended instructional model continues to be blended, learning, or full remote. If the trend continues, we should be able to move down into the moderate. Low, I do not see in the foreseeable future. It has to be below 10. We want to be there. Hopefully we'll be there before the end of the school year. However, you see what is recommended instructionally from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania based on incident rate and percent positivity. Next. Vaccinations. Information has been received via the IU about potential vaccination for our teachers. The governor has recently come out and indicated that teachers will remain in the phase 1B, indicating that when supply and phasing occurs, teachers will then be instructed to mobilize through their district, and either AHN or UPMC will be a host site, and we will be notified as a district, and we are prepared to move forward immediately when that information becomes available. We have been asked by the intermediate unit to determine a vaccination coordinator for the district. Dr. Chakey is our current pandemic coordinator, and he will also oversee the information for vaccine distribution as the coordinator. We back up 2 slides, Bonnie. The academic options for students and families, the blended learning cohort model, which all 3 were adopted at the beginning of the year by the school board, has been in place. We have recently added on February 10th, Wednesdays for our students to return. We still have the option of the Gateway Cyber Academy and the GATE program, which allows our students to learn virtually at home, the Gateway Academic Transitional Educational Model. We will maintain that through the remainder of the 2020-2021 school year. We feel that, you know, our parents, our children who may be uncomfortable with any thought of returning have been in this model. It's been very successful. We are happy with the results of this. Again, our teachers have done a significant job with this, and we understand the difficulties behind it, but I applaud everyone for their efforts with this. Bonnie, can we move 2 slides ahead, please? One more. Key considerations looking ahead. First and foremost, as I stated earlier with the mission statement, the safety of our students and staff is paramount. We must remind ourselves that we are currently still in a pandemic. We're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, but with every decision we make, we must keep in mind the health, safety, and welfare of our students and staff with whatever we decide to do. Number two, level of community transmission. One of the things that we identify and look at internally, the numbers in Monroeville and Pitcairn. We have seen that in this area, the numbers have been significantly higher. There have been articles in the Tribune Review reflecting that. And that's one of the issues that we are faced with within our learning communities. PD, CDC, and Department of Health guidance. We've recently seen a lot of information come out from CDC indicating a safe return to school. Please keep in mind that this recommendation is primarily for those schools that have been remote learning for the duration of the pandemic. We are in fact aligned with CDC and the Department of Health and PDE with their guidance.
In other words, it's safe to open as Gateway is currently open.
Absolutely, and we continue to do so, especially with identifying the physical distancing requirements. The instructional space of 6 feet needs to be maintained with the models we have in place, and we are successful in what we're doing. Number 5, once again, for our community, we are maintaining gate for the remainder of the school year. Next. Pennsylvania Department of Health and Education has requirements that as a district we had signed an attestation form. This only applies whenever the rate falls insubstantial, understanding that masking must be worn at all times, can be removed for lunch and during the time when students are eating, but also 6 feet of social distancing must be maintained. If we move into the moderate level, the attestation form does not apply. Next. Potential timeline. Now, once again, potential. And this, in fact, means that a lot of scenarios that we discussed earlier must be aligned in order to have a successful return of in-person instruction. As a district, we plan on surveying our parents officially to determine whether or not they would be interested in a 5-day return and or the GATE program on February 22nd. We would be asking for each family that we would be able to determine if they in fact have submitted their response to provide our administration with information to follow up on with the second bullet to determine the feasibility of a possible 6 feet distancing within the classrooms. So in essence, what we're saying, some families may decide to stay in the GATE program. Some families who may be hybrid, when hearing about a potential 5-day return, may opt to go into the GATE program. Once we have all the players, so to speak, in place, we're able to determine those classrooms if we're able to offer it at 6 feet of social distancing. Throughout that time period from February 22nd to March 16th, we will then determine what those classrooms would look like, provide this board with that information so they can then determine if that's the direction we wish to go in. Again, board authorization in order to do so. K-4 buildings, a Wednesday return in person, potentially by March 24th, Moss-Side Middle School, Gateway High School, and Gateway Middle School, Wednesday return in person for the 4th 9 weeks on April 7th. What we have been seeing throughout Western Pennsylvania and other districts is a similar model to this. Yes, there are some school districts who have brought back some children in their classrooms 4 or 5 days of instruction, but they're still able to meet that socially distanced guideline because they have so many other students online. So I wanted to clarify that because that was a point of conversation over the last couple of meetings with the superintendents. So essentially, we're asking our parents for data that we can in turn provide our principals with to see how many students physically in a classroom, present that information to the board prior to the 16th, so an educated decision can be made. We feel also by that time, I'm kind of crossing my fingers, that the vaccine will become available to our teaching staff. Because I feel that would be a game changer as well. Do we have any questions?
I guess really the only question I have is, we're calling this an update to the our COVID reopening plan. Because just looking on the website, we still have the language in there for the red, the green,
Yep.
and the yellow phases, which is no longer really current.
Correct.
Scotty, do you think, or Brian, do you guys think this would take like board approval at this point to actually change that because it was a board approved
Health and safety plan.
Health and safety plan? I mean, at the minimum, I would say to update it to change that red, yellow, green language out for the graph that Dr. Short had up there earlier that's actually current.
I would agree with that.
I'd make a motion to approve the presented update to the health and safety
Instructional
plan.
model, yeah.
To update it.
Yeah.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. McIntyre, second by Mr. Williams to update our current plan. Okay. Do you have any questions or comments from the board? Okay. I just want to throw one thing in here. Even though we're talking about this, I think it's good that we're updating this plan and to be cautious. I don't know how many people seen the news, but with the vaccine distribution, we have been seeing cases going down, as Dr. Short has also presented, which is great. And seeing that the positivity rates getting closer to that 5%, which is even better. I think when we're coming to open, I think we want to have a goal. So when we open, we're not doing it so that we're going to set ourselves up to have to shut down again. One of the big things with parents is they are, with the childcare, like what are we going to do with my children while they're home? And one of the perks with our current hybrid is that they're able to plan around it. So if your child is going in group A, then they know that they'll need, this time set aside for the week for home learning. If we do something too rash and jump into something too fast and that building has to shut down, now those parents are going to work on the fly to figure out what they're going to do with their children. So I do like this. I think taking the cautious effort to and do our best we can to make sure we're not shutting down again would be a fantastic move.
Brian, this is John. I have a question. Is it possible for that language to change again sometime in the future?
Correct.
If that's true, then it would be wiser to freshen the resolution motion to point to whatever the authority is. That way, the motion can stay
Administration has
all
ability
the
to
time,
adjust.
and that allows the statistics to be updated from
Correct.
time to time as conditions change.
Okay.
Would that be a good friendly amendment?
I believe it would be, Mr. Ritter, because
Then we wouldn't have to take a motion every time that language changed.
as we've seen over the course of this pandemic, seems like information is changing weekly from the governor's office or PDE, and that would allow the administration to coordinate and also adjust the health and safety plan to meet the language that's stipulated that's coming out.
Simply point to the authoritative.
I think that's a good idea, John.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Ritter. Okay, so
Point of order wise, I mean, I'm not sure how we express that to Bonnie of what we're actually voting on right now. You know what I mean?
all right.
Do we have to vote on an amendment for the resolution or just?
I think we
Hope we all got the gist.
short-circuit it and just have you propose to point to the authoritative source and have it be updated on the Gateway website.
All right, so then I would amend my resolution to have the board approve any update to the COVID related health and safety plan for Gateway School District by the superintendent in accordance with any current change or any future change
From PDE or
from PDE
or CDC.
or the CDC.
Okay,
Second.
all right.
Second,
Here we go.
all right.
Okay, once again, motion by Mr. McIntyre, second by Mr. Williams.
Not bad for off the top of your
All right, Bonnie, did you get all that?
I'll have to do a playback on that, but I think we got the gist of it. Thank you.
head. I don't know if I could do it again either.
Yeah.
All right, so whenever you're ready for a roll call.
Okay, very good. Mr. Gallagher,
Aye.
Mr. Gottman,
Aye.
Mr. McIntyre. Mrs. Mungo.
Aye.
Mr. Ritter,
Aye.
Mrs. Warning. Mr. Williams
Aye.
and Mrs. Delaney.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you, John. That was an excellent idea.
Dr. Short, can I ask a question? You have up there the principals would determine the feasibility of the six-foot distancing after the survey with what comes back. What will happen if you cannot have the 6-foot distancing with the number of students wanting to return?
If we are still mandated by PDE to have that 6 feet social distancing, I will alert the board to that. And then, of course, my recommendation will be to follow those guidelines that as we've done consistently throughout this past year. But then again, it becomes a board decision.
Okay, I'm just, we've been going back and forth with this. Mr. Brown, I've talked to him just with the cleaning and everything like that, getting the kids back into the classroom. This is just from the CDC. It's just guidance of what they're actually saying, but it's not a mandate to reopen. It just makes it safer. So if it gets down to it that, like you're saying, it will come in front of the board, if it has to go less than 6 foot. Correct.
Through the attestation, it's mandated right now.
If we're unable to do that, I think we'd be compelled to go back to the parents. Because if parents are saying that they want to return to 5-day in person, if
Correct.
6 foot is kept, and then the board decides we're not going to follow that guidance, parents may want to say, well, then I don't want to do the 5-day, which then changes the numbers, which could make it possible for 6 feet because I think there should be.
But then we might end up back in the same snare.
Right,
Well,
exactly.
So
At the last survey that you sent out, that was your first statement, that the return to school may not have the 6-foot distancing.
no, and that one it said will not. Actually, if I remember correctly.
And that was an informal, just to gauge
Correct.
where the public was at this
Correct.
point, or community members. Information came back that it was roughly 50-50.
Okay. Because I don't want to be sitting here next month, back hashing this back out, like which parents want them back, regardless if it's 6 foot or not. That's something that would have to be mandatory of what you're asking in this survey. If it's not 6 foot, will you still return?
I agree with you, but I think the wording on this survey is important. It needs to be very precise. I think maybe a little bit better of an explanation of what it is than maybe on the
Right.
last survey.
And this survey would be specific to every parent and family member, meaning like we need a response back. So the language would be specific to what we were asking as far as where we're at this moment moving forward potentially.
Because you would need to know everybody in this class, if those kids are coming back, so you know how many are coming. So if you have kids that are in a GATE program that want to return, they would go back to their original classroom or they would be shuffled around. How would you do that?
At this time, they would go back to their original classroom. Now, we can't say for sure because numbers
Right.
reflect that.
Exactly.
So we would really, and if you notice, the survey is distributed on the 22nd.
Right.
This allows for over 3 weeks for our administrative team and principals to determine, okay, how will our classrooms look based on the data of families wanting to come back or remain engaged?
This may be diving into micromanagement or minutia here, but we're not going to, obviously, we're going to shoot for every survey to be returned.
Correct.
That's not going to happen. I think we all know that.
And
So if say there's a student that's currently enrolled in a hybrid, and you do not get a response back to them, what will the assumption be for the survey?
and there will be, within the survey added in, if a survey or response is not collected, you will remain in that program.
But there will be no hybrid.
Correct. Meaning
So
5
if
days.
somebody's in the
5 days.
hybrid and we
They
send the
won't get that
survey out and we don't
result.
get it back, I think we need
Correct.
to
Yes.
take a look at what that's going to mean for the stats on the survey. Because we can't just say, well, you're going to stay where you're at because that
Correct,
might not be.
So let me see if I can tease that out for you. We could bend
person.
the survey to say something like, we're sending this, so we hope you give us a response. But if you don't, then we will assume that whatever your protocol is right now, that'll be status quo for you. And it's a de facto vote to, whatever.
To stay in the
Yeah,
program
it-
you are.
and-
But the hiccup there, John, is if we go back to 5 days, if we go back to 5 days, that hybrid's gone.
And we would specify the 5 or hybrid would be 5 days.
Okay, so yeah,
Yes.
the assumption then would be that you're ready
Specify.
to come back for full 5 day
Yes.
instruction without the return.
Right.
Okay. Good.
Okay.
I mean, executive, but
No.
All right, do we have any other questions or comments? Dr. Short, do you have anything else to add to?
That's it.
Okay. I think it'll be great to see the data comes in and we'll be able to make our solid educated decision once it comes in. All righty, we'll move on to section A, minutes of previous meetings. Resolved that the Gateway School Board, School Directors approves the minutes of the following previous held meetings: study session meeting, January 12th of 2021, regular board meeting, January 19th, 2021. Do we have a motion?
I'll move.
Second.
Motion by Mr. McIntyre, second by Mr. Williams. Questions or comments? All right, let's just do, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay,
Thank you.
all right, section B, financial reports. Mr. Schott.
Thank you, Mr. Gottman. Resolved that the Gateway Board of School Directors approve sections B1 list of bills, B2 monthly financial statements, and B3 budget transfers as listed in section B at the Tuesday, February 16th, 2021 regular board meeting. And specifically, those financial reports consist of section B1 list of bills for the month of February 2021, section B1 list of bills for February 2021 added after a study session meeting, section B2 monthly financial statements for the month of January 2021, and finally, section B3 budget transfers for the month of February 2021.
So
Okay.
moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Williams, second by Mr. McIntyre.
I think I see a pattern.
Do we have any questions or comments? Okay, seeing none. Bonnie, roll call.
Mr. Gottman,
Aye.
Mr. McIntyre. Mr. McIntyre,
Aye, I'm sorry.
Ms. Mungo. Aye. Mr. Ritter,
Aye.
Mrs. Warning. Mr. Williams,
Aye.
Mrs. Delaney. Aye. Mr. Gallagher.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Alrighty. Moving on to section D, personnel agenda. Mrs. Crump.
Thank you, Mr. Gottman. Resolved that the Gateway Board of School Directors accepts and approves the personnel agenda items 1 through 7 as listed in section D for the regular board meeting of Tuesday, February 16th, 2021. Under resignations, we do have one additional since the study session to call to your attention. That is for Janice Feigl. Janice will be retiring with this district after 28 years of serving in food service. So we want to wish her and Cherry both, between the two of them, they have over 54 years of service within the district working with our students. And we want to thank them for that years of service and wish them well in this next journey and remind them that they can always substitute anytime. Under leave of absence, we have no new additions since the last, so there are 8 reflected. Under section 3, transfers, there are 9. There are 3 new ones that are dished at the back per the collective bargaining agreement.
Under section 4 for employment, we have no changes or additions. Under supplemental contracts, we do have 5 additional contracts. You will notice that the ones for baseball and softball have been added that were inquired about last week. And under volunteers, we do have 1 additional volunteer for baseball. Under section 7, it is for the reappointment of the commissions for Doctors Short, Rossi, and Chaky as superintendent and assistant superintendent for the next 5 years, as their commissions currently expire June 30th of 2021.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Crum.
Second.
Motion by Mr. McIntyre, second by Mr. Williams. Do we have any questions or comments for section D? All right, seeing none, Ms. Isha, roll call.
Mr. McIntyre.
Aye.
Ms. Mongo. Mr. Ritter,
Aye.
Mrs. Warning. I'm sorry, I can't hear you, Mrs. Warning.
Aye.
Mr. Williams,
Aye.
Mrs. Delaney. Mrs. Delaney. Okay, Mr. Gallagher
Aye.
and Mr. Gottman.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you to the superintendents.
Thank you.
All righty, we're gonna move on to section E, conferences.
Thank you, Mr. Gottman. For conferences tonight, we do have one item, Pennsylvania Association of School Business Officials. We also have a threat assessment training for myself and 4 individuals that was added after the study session.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Williams, second by Mr. McIntyre. Do we have any questions or comments for section E? I just got one question. Since one of their dates listed, is there a specific date for the threat assessment training?
The threat assessment training is delivered virtually, so it's going to open up the window throughout the month here, and teachers will have access to the training.
Okay, thank you. All right, any other questions, comments? All right, seeing none, can we do a roll call?
Yes, Ms. Mongo,
Aye.
Mr. Ritter,
Aye.
Mrs. Warning,
Aye.
Mr. Williams,
Aye.
Mrs. Delaney. Aye. Mr. Gallagher.
Aye.
Mr. Gottman
Aye.
and Mr. McIntyre.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, before we move on to section F, Mrs. Isha, do we have any comments from the residents?
No, I have no comments at this time. I've received nothing at this time.
Okay, thank you. All right, section F, administrative report, Dr. Short.
Elementary education, Dr. Rossi.
Thank you, Dr. Short. Item number 1 is the final approval of Envision Math that was placed on display on January 19th, 2021. Item number 2 is the motion to approve the display of the following resources as listed below. And item number 3 is a motion to approve the agreement with IXL Learning.
Item number 4, facility agreements for GMFCA Game Day and also Atlantic Coast Baseball.
Item number 5, approval of change in school physician and approval of change to Exhibit A in the current professional services agreement as depicted in Exhibit B. Item number 6, approval of Allegheny Intermediate Unit Number 3 Program of Services budget for the 21-22 fiscal year. That's depicted in Exhibit C. Item number 7, approval of receipt, purchases, and payments for COVID-19 ESSER School Health and Safety Grant federal funds items through the general fund during the 2021 fiscal year. That's in the amount of $101,943 as depicted below. Item number 8, approval of receipt, purchases, and payments for Gear Special Education COVID-19 Impact Mitigation Grant federal funds items through the general fund during the 2021 fiscal year in the amount of $25,118. Item number 9, Approval to continue lease agreement with the Allegheny Intermediate Unit Number 3 Head Start program for the 21-22 fiscal year for the lease of the Evergreen Elementary School in the total amount of $13,247, and that is as depicted in Exhibit D. Item number 10, approval of the Tri-Cog Land Bank's notice of intent to acquire one Pitcairn property located within the Gateway School District. That is depicted in Exhibit E. Item number 11, resolved that the Gateway Board of School Directors approves and adopts the maximum project cost for the Gateway Middle School construction and renovation project in the amount of $39,463,123 and the maximum building construction cost for the project in the amount of $15,122,500. Be it further resolved that the Gateway Board of School Directors approves and authorizes the district's administration and the district's architect, Axis Architecture, to prepare and to submit to the Pennsylvania Department of Education an Act 34 project description booklet in accordance with Section 349.13 of the School Building Standards with all required attachments for review. Item 2, to schedule an Act 34 of 1973 public hearing. Item 3, to advertise an Act 34 public hearing in accordance with Section 349.12 of the School Building Standards. Item 4, to make the Act 34 project description booklet available to the public at least 20 days prior to the scheduled Act 34 public hearing. Item 5, to mail the Act 34 project description booklet to the news media no later than 14 days prior to the scheduled Act 34 public hearing. Item 6, to develop the agenda for the scheduled Act 34 public hearing. And item 7, to record the minutes from the Act 34 public hearing to document for PDE as depicted in Exhibit F. Please note, Act 34 of 1973 applies to non-reimbursable projects where there is a substantial building addition, as is the case for the district's Gateway Middle School construction and renovation project. A building addition is considered substantial when its planned new architectural area divided by the existing structure's architectural area is greater than 20%. The district's building addition for this particular project has been calculated to be an increase of 48%, where a project is required to conform with the requirements of Act 34. Item 12, approve and authorize the district's administration to proceed with the formal advertising of the applicable bids with the assistance from the district's architect of record, Axis Architecture, for the required capital renovations and capital improvements to the Gateway Middle School to enable the creation of a new district grade 5 through grade 8 school building. Note, subsequent resolutions will be presented by the administration to the board for consideration, specifically related to the approval to award the base bid, as well as any applicable bid alternates, and the approval to purchase other applicable components and or applicable services as related to the Gateway Middle School renovation project. Item number 13 is formal action constituting a debt ordinance under the Local Government Unit Debt Act. That's depicted in Exhibit G. I will not read that entire resolution. That is approximately 40 pages. But please note, this is the second time this resolution has had to be updated. The first time was for a $40 million amount. And since we're approaching the year mark, we have a new board president as well, so we need to update it. In addition, the $50 million amount is strictly for DCED advertising guidelines and simply provides for room and leverage on a maturity by maturity basis. The final issuance will be streamlined to the designated project and no more. Is standard procedure for these type of new money deals.
All righty, thank you.
Welcome.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, motion by Mr. Williams, second by Mrs. Delaney. Okay. Do you have any questions or comments for section F?
Yes.
Yes,
I
Ms. Warren.
have a couple. Mr. Schott, explain to me, you said, because we have a new board president, is that taking it up $10 million?
No.
The way you said that, it's making like Brian is, Mr. Gottman is costing us. Huh?
It's for mostly for a combination of different things. The amount was required to be adjusted based on the additional information being provided in the Act 34 components that'll be reviewed at the public hearing, as well as all the documents that would be signed coming up. It would be consistent to have it all with the same board president signing off on it. When this original resolution was approved last March, Mrs. Cerrucci actually had signed off on it at that particular point in time.
Okay, so Mr. Gottman, your costing us 10 million.
We're getting 10 million.
I'm just saying. Okay, now thanks for explaining that. That was just the way you phrased it. I'm just going to ask for number 10, if we could possibly table this till next month. It's on the TriCog. Reason being is I have reached out to the council chairperson in Pitcairn, and we talked a little bit, but she wanted to talk further on this property, which isn't going to be until tomorrow. So I'm just asking if we could possibly table number 10.
You would make a motion to table number 10.
Yes, please. Make a motion to table number 10.
Okay, we have a motion by Mrs. Warning to table item number 10. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, second by Mr. Gallagher. All right, do we have any questions or comments regarding the motion?
I don't think you can. They're just.
No discussion.
Okay. All right, we'll go straight to a vote then here. Mrs. Eshaw, roll call, please.
This is for number 10 to table.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Ritter,
Aye.
Mrs. Warning,
Aye.
Mr. Williams,
Aye.
Mrs. Delaney. Mr. Gallagher,
Aye.
Mr. Gottman,
Aye.
Mr. McIntyre.
Aye.
Ms. Mungo.
Aye.
Table, motion carried to table.
Thank you.
All righty. We'll move back to the remainder of section F. Do you have any other questions or comments?
Maybe just for clarity's sake to explain, we haven't approved the spending of a single dime yet for the remodel. This is simply laying the framework for
Correct.
future meetings and potentially future board members, for when that number actually materializes. That, and this, we're not issuing a bond. We're not saying we're spending $55 million on a building tonight. This is simply one procedural step along the way to actually getting that building renovated.
That is absolutely correct.
Mr. Schott, right now, what is the interest rates that you're looking at?
Well, they vary based on how the bonds would be structured in terms of, and I think I'm just going off the, trying to think if I have that one item in front of me. I think the last document I had prepared that was based off of the estimates prepared by Piper Sandler, the district's bond underwriter, I believe had varying interest rates of anywhere over, I think it was a 2021 year issue of 1.25, 3%. What we've been seeing in the overall 20-year bond market based on weekly updates that Piper Sandler provides to my office is that the bond market has actually been, probably in the last 3 weeks, been trending downward again. Just to give an idea, the lowest point off the one fax that they send me every week that occurred during the 2020 calendar year was 20-year bonds at 2.02. That was the lowest mark, and that dated back on the sheet that they provided, which I believe I provided a couple of these to the boards over the last several months. I think it was 2007. Now, the most recent one that I received, I believe on Monday of this week, those same 20-year bonds, 2.10. So again, in terms of the timing of the bond market and being able to take advantage of those rates, it's definitely all in our favor. We even saw this last year when we refinanced some of our bonds as well.
Okay, thanks.
Welcome.
Okay, any other questions or comments? All righty, so Ms. Eshaw, whenever you're ready for a roll call.
Mrs. Warning,
Aye.
Mr. Williams,
Aye.
Mrs. Delaney. Mr. Gallagher,
Aye.
Mr. Gottman,
Aye.
Mr. McIntyre.
Aye.
Ms. Mungo,
Aye.
Mr. Ritter.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right. Step one, the new school underway. Okay, board reports. Dr. Short.
Nothing tonight. I basically covered everything within my presentation.
Okay. Dr. Chaky,
Nothing further, thank you.
Dr. Rossi,
Nothing further. Thank you.
Mrs. Bungard,
Nothing further. Thank you.
Mr. Schott,
Nothing further. Thank you.
Mrs. Crump.
Yes, please check our website for listings for positions that we currently have open. We are advertising for paraprofessionals, food service workers, lunchroom aides, and also substitute custodians.
All righty, thank you. And we'll go to board reports. This time we'll start on my left and Mr. Gallagher.
Yeah, I want to
What?
welcome Ms.
No,
Mungo
really.
to the board. I look forward to working together. Normally I have something to add to think about, but Ms. Jennings provided more than enough tonight, and just reflecting back on the talent that's within the school, and I greatly appreciate her sending that in and being a part of this evening.
Okay, thank you. Mr. McIntyre.
Not much for me tonight, other than, I've lived on the Gulf Coast for a number of years, and the Carnival and Mardi Gras kind of got imbibed in me, living down there. So you don't see it nearly as much up here. Fat Tuesday's not nearly as big and celebrated here as the following Friday when we get the fish fries going. But today is Fat Tuesday, so I'm happy about it. My wife let me take a cheat day on the keto diet, so laissez les bon temps rouler.
All righty, thank you. Mr. Williams.
Nothing this evening except welcome to Ms. Mungo.
Thank you.
Bruce, do we have any update on the water runoff thing?
On the what?
MSA.
Water
runoff.
MS4.
Oh, other than to say to you that there's 4 school districts now in the lawsuit. We're still in discovery. I think that's going to be coming to a close, and I would think we might see the commencement of serious, I'm going to call it serious litigation, where we're in front of some judge this summer.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mrs. Warning.
I just have a couple. I just want to wish best of luck to our bowling team. Tomorrow they go into with WPIBL championships. They've been doing very well to make it this far, and I just want to wish them the best there. And also, Dr. Short, you might want to chime in on this. Our athletic director was approached by Nike that they want. Okay, I won't say anything.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. But that's it for this evening.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Warning. Mrs. Delaney.
Yeah, I just have a few things. First, let me congratulate and welcome Robin.
Thank you.
Looking forward to working with you. And also all of the retirees, or resignations really, but I call it retirees. Cherry Lane, who I have worked with for many years in Gateway, and excellent individual to know and to work with. I wish her well with that. And also I want to thank Jalen Jennings, the 12th grader who did sing, Lift Every Voice and sing. And I want to thank Mr. Lassick for making that possible for her to do that tonight at our meeting. The one thing I want to close out with, because I always believe in showcasing our young people, whether they're from Gateway or wherever, because they're our future. And as I looked, and I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I'm going to read just part of 22-year-old Amanda Gorman, who was the youngest person ever to deliver a poem at the presidential inauguration. And her poem was called The Hill We Climb, that she wrote. And I was just so amazed and impressed by it. I just want to read the last section of it, because in her generation as well as ours, but her generation, because she, I hope, will be here along with others a lot longer than some of us may be. So it gives us hope when we see young people perform and to write and say the things that they do. The hill we climb. But one thing is certain, if we merge mercy with might and might with right, then love becomes our legacy and change our children's birthright. So let us leave behind a country better than the one we were left. With every breath from my bronze pounded chest, we will raise this wounded world into a wondrous one. We will rise from the golden hills of the West. We will rise from the wind-swept Northeast where our forefathers first realized revolution. We will rise from the lake-ribbed cities of the Midwestern states. We will rise from the sun-baked South. We will rebuild, reconcile, and recover. In every known nook of our nation, in every corner called our country, our people, diverse and beautiful, will emerge, battered and beautiful. When day comes, we step out of the shade, aflame and unafraid. The new dawn blooms as we free it. For there is always light, if only we're brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it. I just wanted to end with that.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Delaney. Mr. Ritter.
Well, I'd like to welcome Robin and ask, did you get that email that the new guy's supposed to bring the pizza? If not, I'll send you an email on that, okay? That's all I got.
If you like veggie pizza.
All right, thank you, Mr. Ritter. Mrs. Mungo.
I just want to say thank you again. This is something I've always wanted to do, but because of my previous employment, I was not able to do it. So this is an honor to be able to serve the community of Monroeville. I told someone earlier when I came in, I walked past the showcase with the Girl Scout /Invest. And that was the first time I took an oath when I was a Girl Scout in Evergreen Elementary School. And I actually remember on my honor, I will try to serve God, my country, and mankind, and to live by the Girl Scout law. And I think I've lived my life like that every single day. Took the oath to join the United States Army Reserves, which was an honor. Took the oath to join the Pennsylvania State Police, which was an honor. And it was an honor tonight to join the school board. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, actually, I do have one thing here. Mrs. Isha, if you're able to pull up the art selection for this month.
Please.
Okay. So in case anybody's worried, the art section of our meetings is back. And this tonight, we're actually going to be focused on the high school. And we have two sections. One involves pencil studies. So the students in drawing A have been practicing their ability to render a graphite image accurately and with depth. The students have been practicing their skills in shading and tone with an emphasis on using their eyes to find shapes within the whole, pencil pressure and pencil position, as well as techniques for building layers and textures. So the drawings we're going to be seeing in this part, you're going to see a lot of depth, a lot of shading to take a two-dimensional object and turn it into 3D while you can also see all the individual shapes. So the first one we have here is a dragon pencil study by our 11th grader. Again, very, very detailed. You can see all the depth within the scales. Our next drawing is from our 12th grader. And just when you think it could not get any better, it does. And here you see even more depth, more shadowing, more detail. I mean, these drawings are absolutely amazing. Next is from our 9th grader. Looks to be a self-portrait. And our final one from this section is from our 12th grader with ice skates. The next section is Grisaille and monochrome. So the students in painting A have been studying the use of tint and shade to develop a work of art. Grisaille, entirely made of shades in gray, and monochromatic, one color plus black and white. Images were developed by students to practice control and contrast through the tone rather than color. So again, in these pictures, you're still going to see that depth, the shadowing, the 3D, and now we're actually going to be able to introduce one color. So the first one here is from our 10th grader. With a lamp that is turned on, you can see how the shadowing there presents the light illuminating from it. Our next one's from our 12th grader, which would be a mountain landscape. Again, great use of the shading to show the depth of the hills and valley. Our next one's from our 10th grader with a lighthouse, and you can see now we've added some blue and with the shading there to create the waves. And our last one from our 12th grader is a portrait of a vampire, this time using what color is most synonymous with vampires? Red. And again, even with the different shading of red, you can still see how every part of it stands out, whether it's her hair, the clouds, the moon, everything. So I have to say, well done to our high schoolers. And next week I'll have even more art. All right, so with that, we'll be adjourning our meeting. We will be going back into executive to discuss litigation. There will be no further votes taken this evening. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Motion by Mr. McIntyre, second by Mr. Williams. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
I think you guys had it. Meeting adjourned.